Ah, okay, now it started.
Yes.
So let me start. Oops. Okay, little hiccup. Okay. Okay, so you should see my screen now.
Yep.
See it? Yeah.
Okay, so yes, I think it was already noticed by all the participants. It's quite a nice success. We have plenty of people connected, and my first slide. Okay, no slides. My first slide is indeed this. We have 70 registered participants from 9 countries, and so with some balance that is probably representative of what we are doing in ID. So yes, a lot, and we have people from Australia. Congratulations to them since it's quite late in the evening. So this is this year an online conference for the reason you know. So this format is quite new for all of us, even if we have done a few online conferences this year. So there will be no coffee break, no drinks in the evening in Paris. Sorry, this I cannot share. And even if we have done it, it would have been impossible these days. So don't be too upset about that. So it is recorded, so you should see that on your screen. And please mute yourself when you are not speaking so that there is no background noise. So all the video and material from the presentation will be available from the IDE meeting and maybe other medium. We are going to discuss that after the meeting, and we will put a Creative Commons by license, which means that if people want to use or reuse this material, they have to cite the authors. And we are also considering setting DOIs for online materials that have been submitted and that we put online so that they can be referenced. So all presentations are not there yet on the website, so please upload your material. If you can't do it, and there is a good reason for that, is that you need to have an account. So if you didn't create your account in the first place, then you can't upload. So please send your presentation to me and I will do it for you.
I didn't really see the procedure, so I'm not sure exactly how to do that.
Well, when you first registered, there was a box to tick to register, and yeah, some people did, some others don't. So yeah.
Okay, well, I'll send it.
So, and for the showcase sessions, since it will be, we will try to stream the thing out so that it's keeping the time. Please send me your 2 slides in advance by noon, the day of the presentation, noon UT, so that we can play the presentation for everybody. And thank you really for the people who prepared the video. Not all of us did that. But I think it will be very nice for future reference and for the people who cannot attend.
Question on the 2 slides. Do we just put those in the same place as the other materials, or do you want us to email them?
No, you can put it on the same place. Yeah, we will take the right one.
Thank you.
And I also opened some empty pages to take notes, so we can all take notes. This presentation is online on the conference website, so you can, and you received the first link in the email half an hour ago. So everybody can take notes on that page, and that will be the source of the notes that we are taking. Okay, I'm done. If there are questions, please speak out. And we go to the ID presentation of Xing. Any question? Okay.
Okay, let me share my screen then.
Yes. So I release this one. Yes. Can go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Oh, there you go.
Yes.
Okay. Okay, so I've been asked to give a little introduction to IDEA. This one. Can you all see okay?
Fine.
Yep.
Okay. Well, the idea about IDEA, it really came from a time when heliophysics or space physics in Europe, call it, we're recognizing the fact that space physics or heliophysics is really getting to be a system science and requiring a lot of data to be put together to support science analysis. So that's the situation, even back a few years ago. So we came up with an idea to have a collaborative environment so we can all talk about how we can put data together. So before I really get started, let me show that I'm sure you have all seen this logo here for IDEA, thanks to Todd King, who, as he put the original IDEA website together, he came up with this little light bulb type logo, and for good reason. One, we're a collection of a lot of people, so we all have a lot of ideas. So we actually came up with this acronym for a specific reason, because we all have ideas. Not only that we have ideas, i.e. the light bulbs, you can actually look at this. This is actually the heliosphere with the sun at the center, and this is the heliospheric bow shock going through the interstellar medium. Or you can think of this as the magnetosphere with the Earth, and here's the magnetosphere with the magnetotail down below. So it's quite representative of what we try to support and do. So that's IDEA. Let me just give you a historical rundown of how IDEA came about. Ever since we have now recognized the fact that we're actually doing system science requiring a lot of collaborative work, in particular in space weather arena. Back in 2017, we happened to have organized a UN-US International Space Weather Initiative, ISWE, workshop in Boston College, Massachusetts. And I actually organized one day that talked about coordination between space-based and ground-based data, and in support of the ISWE initiatives. So we were able to invite quite a number of international partners, data providers, technologists, and whatnot, to come and talk about how we can actually support this international space weather enterprise, requiring a lot of data resources. And out of that conversation, things got evolved. So there's conversation going on, and we just realized, well, gee, we can't just talk about having international collaboration. We should really try to do something about it. And in the following year, at the COSPAR General Assembly, we actually proposed that SPACE and HAPI, which are respectively the metadata standard, and HAPI is the access protocol standards, we proposed those to be used by COSPAR within these space weather panel. And then later on, while the conversation of international collaboration were taking place throughout the year from 2017 to 2018, so Arnaud Masson of ESA Madrid hosted the first International Heliophysics Data Environment meeting. And that's really is the first extension of the NASA Heliophysics Data Environment into the international arena. So we got together and try to think about how we can actually get some international collaboration together to develop an international heliophysics data environment. So with that going on, lo and behold, we actually had a small follow-up meeting at the AGU in Washington, D.C. We continued with that conversation. And soon after that, COSPAR actually came out with the adoption of SPACE and HAPI as their recommended standards for metadata and access protocol. So it's almost like things are really coming together. So later on that year, we hosted the third IDEA meeting. At that time, the name IDEA has really been adopted. So that's where it was at the end of last year. Okay. So who are we? Well, we're really not a formalized entity at the time. We're just a bunch of researchers, modeler, information technologists, and developers. So we are really is a group of people. The commonality is that we're all working in and for and toward advancing heliophysics and improving the heliophysics data environment. Now, in the context of IDEA, we have to mention that heliophysics is not a NASA term. It's only a shorthand way of a more encompassing entity. In fact, it's in the charter, we specify that the term heliophysics encompasses all studies of our sun and its interaction with solar system objects and beyond, their consequences for and the feedback from those objects, including space weather and space climate. So in the context of IDEA, the term heliophysics includes most of everything that we all study, okay? So it's not just space physics. Whoops. So, and by extension, we're really coming from a different organization representing an international heliophysics community. So that's who we are. So what are our goals? Well, our goals are very simple. It's just to encourage the use of common standards and services in order to enable sharing of data. And at the end, we want the data to have more scientific returns. And therefore, we are advancing the heliophysics enterprise. So in doing so, we have several ways or objective, if you can call it, of achieving our goal. Well, first of all, we really need the involvement of the international heliophysics and space weather data providers, because without data, there wouldn't be anything to analyze. And then we need to have a way to access the data. So standards-based data system is critical so that the data system themselves are actually interoperable. In other words, if you have one set of data speaking only one language, and you can only use your system accessing your data, so that's not going to do your partners any good unless your partner also has the same access to your data. Maybe through a different system, but the different system needs to be able to speak the same language. So the metadata standards becomes an important thing. And then, of course, by extension, it would be nice if everybody used the same tool to access the data. So that's how we set up to make IDEA work. So basically, the role of IDEA is just a forum for us to engage the community, foster communication, and identify the standards, services that will be best serve the science needs. I only mentioned space and HAPI as two standards. There could be other standards out there. We don't know. Of course, standards can evolve, and we'll see. So, and we start from there. So how is IDEA organized?
Are you advancing
well,
the slides?
As I mentioned,
I'm not seeing anything beyond slide 3 at the moment.
I am now on slide 5.
That's what I see.
Yeah, that's what I see too.
That's what I see too.
Well,
I'm seeing slide 3. Okay, I'll fix me.
Yeah, well, okay. Are most people seeing slide 5?
Seems so.
Yes.
Okay. So how are we organized? Well, since the last IDEA meeting in Washington, we actually formalized the charter and bylaws of IDEA. And soon after that, we actually announced formally the establishments of IDEA right around the AGU timeframe in December. Membership of this organization is open to everyone. open to all organizations and individuals who are involved in activities related to heliophysics domain, as defined in the charter. So heliophysics, remember, means most everything, including space weather. So anyone can request and be granted the membership, as long as they agree to both the IHDEA charter and the bylaws, which for what we do it's just very simple. So please go to the website to look at those two documents. When this presentation get posted, you can just simply click on these links and get to those documents. Well, we need to have some kind of governing body. So IHDEA also has an executive committee. The members of the executive committee are represented by major stakeholders of the organizations in IHDEA. IHDEA decisions are passed only by unanimous consensus of the executive committee. So there's really no dissent. If all but one member gives a negative vote, then that issue will stay and will get further discussed until the next time get voted again. So we wanted to make sure that all the decisions are inclusive. The IHDEA charter can be revised by the executive committee. However, the bylaw can only be changed with majority consensus of the membership. So it is important to be a member of the organization. You're certainly welcome to be part of the observer or just keeping track of what we do. But to be effective or to have a say on how the bylaw could be changed, you really need to be a member.
Question?
Yep.
How do we know if we're a member already?
Well, that's a good question. There is a sign up right next to the signing up for the news. Right below, there's a link to join the IHDEA. Last time, because this was so new, at the last meeting, we decided that everyone who attended our last meeting are by default a member. So if you did not attend last meeting, then you may not be a member. So what you need to do is to go to the website and just sign up and become a member. Okay?
Well, it would be good to have probably somewhere the list of members, if people are okay with that. We have the list of member institutions, but not of the people, I think.
Yeah, it would be good to list the members or someplace. Well, we can.
Yeah, we also list the executive committee, right?
The current initial executive committee is listed. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. Let me go on. Okay, finally, how do we do things? How do we conduct our business? This is really still a grassroots organization, so the work is really done by everyone in collaboration with one another. So there's going to be a lot of collaborations and coordination between working groups. So the fact that we have a metadata standard, we have an access protocol standard. So these things organize naturally within itself as group. As most of you know, space is managed by the space group, and we have a teleconference every other week. And Happy conducts their own teleconference regularly. There are other topics that we deal with. For example, DOI, you will hear much more about later in the next couple of days. And we also have a lot of people that deals with analysis and display tools like Autoplot, SpeedAs, and what have you. And there could be others. Toward the end of the last day, we'll try to talk about what other groups or working group we should form. So whoever is working on a particular topic it should be welcome to join one or the other or multiple working groups. So with that, the collaboration is done mostly online. So far, we've done it only by email, and that seems to work. But later on today, we'll talk about how we can actually set up a collaboration platform. For communication purposes, we try to maintain the IDEA website with any new information we'll put there. So everyone is welcome to look at the IDEA website and provide us comment. What improvement you want to see or what new feature you want to see, please let us know. And as I mentioned before, there is the IDEA news listserv that you can join. So anytime when we have a new announcement, for example, the announcement for IDEA meeting, it'll come out of that listserv. Okay, so with everyone working during the year or whatnot, we will try to hold annual or roughly annual meetings. This is one of them. All our IDEA meetings are open meetings, so anyone can join. And I think that's all I have. With that, let's get on with the meeting, which is what we're doing now, today. Okay.
Thank you, Xing. Yeah,
questions?
Any question for Xing?
Well, one thing I wonder about is, has there been talk of having a more regular meeting? I mean, more than once a year? It seems like with technologies like this, it's becoming pretty natural for all of us to do this. And with our work too, I mean, we might be better served by having, quarterly meetings or something like that.
And I would throw in there too, maybe we have some kind of technical interchange aspect to that as well. Maybe that could be thrown onto that, or those could be separate, maybe the grassroots things like you say, but they could, like for Happy, we're definitely interested in fostering and promulgating and advertising, and so, having a venue for that could be useful.
We need subgroup meetings perhaps more than global, general meetings.
Yes, I think that's, having a full meeting for all these people several times a year might be difficult. But on subgroups, I think that's a good idea. Yeah.
We need to have people have a DOI meeting or a access methods meeting or European and American and Japanese methods combined and whatever.
Yeah,
so each of those have a focus and actually get real things accomplished.
I think a metadata working group meeting would be good as well.
Yeah, that's the kind of thing.
Yeah, we can certainly expand the space metadata working team meeting to include anyone who wants to join. The space metadata working team, we have bi-weekly telecons, so anyone interested in participating, just send me an email. I'll just include you.
And with our full schedules, Tuesday and Wednesday's presentations, obviously there's a lot of things that people want to go. So.
Yeah, I think the general meeting is mostly for reporting progress in a particular area. The actual working teams or collaborative meeting between groups, that should be done, at your own schedule. I would think. I mean, the space group and the SMWT already has some collaborative conversations every other week, and in fact, we end up meeting every week about that. So,
well, that's actually a good point about the SPACE meeting and the SMWT meeting. Technically, in a way, because they're kind of, at least the SPACE meeting is got a lot of the same members, so it really could become a subgroup of IDEA in a sense. I mean, we could just map it formally and people can join as they like. So the metadata discussion is actually ongoing.
And
yeah.
the SPACE meeting I've been treating as kind of a HPDE meeting, since we don't have an HPDE meeting of that sort.
Well, that's true too, yeah.
We've included a lot of topics like Happy and whatnot that are They're somewhat more general, even though they relate to space. I tried to keep that as kind of an open forum to some degree.
Yeah, I guess what I'm suggesting is there's some activities already that just could become part of IDEA rather than starting something totally new. Right.
Right. We just relabel.
Yeah.
Relabel and add participants.
Yep.
Yep.
What I also meant by the metadata was actually not like moving space forward or things like that, but actual coordination of metadata production around the world. That's something we don't have at all at this point.
Yes, and that's going to be a topic of discussion later on.
Right. That was
and there's been some email.
Right.
Yeah, email exchanges about what kind of protocols do we want to put in place to sort of coordinate.
The flurry of emails we had in the last 5 days.
Yeah, but we should forbid the emails during the weekends.
Yeah, you don't have to answer.
But then we have to read them on Monday morning.
Yeah, but you fall behind on the discussion. Things get decided, and you weren't there. Your voice didn't go in. So I agree with that. Actually, there needs to be a pause.
Okay, so this is a little bit of an insider discussion for space, but yes, this for all the other new people, newcomers, this means that this is already a quite active group. There is a lot of exchange, as Xing said, around space. Well, the one I'm participating in is mostly around space. So I think it would be very good for the group to have a wider discussion, and with what we are going to propose later today, having maybe a more wiki-like functioning where we can keep track easily of the discussions and try to build out documentation, recommendations on top of those very interesting email discussions. Okay, I had one question about the ID website.
Yes.
So if who should we send a message to if we want to give advice to maybe update or put some content, content?
You can send me a message. This is Ren.
Yeah.
Send it to Ren.
Yeah. Okay. So your email is on the website. So or is there so let me check.
I
on the
will
website.
check. Yeah.
Yeah, there must be a contact email, since I had some comments from people asking me what is ID when I advertised it around me, and yeah. They felt there was not so much information on the website, so we have to probably to build together the content so that it's more informative and give more insights on what we are doing.
It was definitely a skeleton as it stands, and so we need to flesh it out.
I think we have a lot of material this week that we can use and reuse to try to put things together.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
All right, next.
Let's go to the next one then. So this is you, Aaron.
That's what I thought. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep. I'll try to share my screen. I had to log out and log back in again. I got out of my VPN, so hopefully I'm okay now. Let's see. Share screen. Let's see if this works. Has everybody got it?
Yes.
Full screen.
Well, we're seeing the presenter tools, your desktop.
I'm trying to get it to go full screen. There we go. Is that okay now?
Oh, still seeing.
No change yet. There it goes.
Okay, we got a full screen now?
Yep.
Okay, good. So this is an update on the NASA piece of this whole picture. In particular, the heliophysics data environment. I won't talk as much about the modeling side, but that's part of our picture too. What I'm going to go through is start with data, then data formats, then metadata, then access, then a general picture. So it's taking the key pieces of our data environment and putting them all, ensuring where we've made advances. So data, This is just sort of representative examples. There's a lot going on, but the new missions, Parker Solar Probe, ICON, Gold, Solar Orbiter, Arase, all these are either beginning to or have already done quite a bit to put in data into the system, and NASA's been collecting and trying to put all that into. Generally speaking, we try to aim for CEDO-Web, which is the most actively accessed and easily used. It gives you the most routes into the data. So one note is there's a lot of international collaboration in that, Solar Orbiter and Arase in particular, and there's also cross-discipline, cross-agency things. We've got those data coming from NOAA, for example, and DMSP data coming from the military side. Other coordination projects, we're working with ESA and other agencies, and Cluster Ulysses, GOES, DMSP, I just mentioned that. And there's a long-term initiative that Jack Ireland, I'm sure, will tell us about later, of trying to get the Solar Dynamics Observatory data at SDAC or at some equivalent of SDAC, and there are data and software issues involved with that. But that's a big project. That's the largest single set of data in any of our fields. Okay, data formats. We're continuing with CDF and FITS. There's the usual ones in progress. NetCDF has been used fairly widely in the ITM community, and it's now being more incorporated into the general scheme of things. One of the things is to uniformize the sort of metadata associated with that. So this ISTP set of guidelines for times and what variables you use and all that kind of thing. So trying to make that more uniform so that ultimately NetCDF data can be served directly from things like CEDO-Web. And a lot of the things like any of the tools that we have based on standards then will be more easily used. So metadata. On the specifics side, Lee was talking about, we've registered, Lee has done a lot of this, Lee Bargatze has done a lot of this, registered essentially all the active NASA HP mission data. Let's see, I've got this. There we go. The solar side of things we're a little bit behind on. We have most of the things, I think, registered, but we have them in sort of general way. We have AIA on SDO, but there are sub things that should be brought out as specific products. And so we've got to work on the solar side some. NASA is also now going to be archiving research-based data sets, and James Wigan has produced a number of these, and they even have DOIs and whatnot. So as people do their NRA, their grants-based research, they may be producing data sets, and we want to capture those. So our Rose's call for proposals now includes how you're supposed to put those into the archives, and it's essentially just like regular spacecraft data. So if you've done some nice product based on some set of other things, it can now, for instance, Omni is a good example where many data sets have been combined together, and that's one product, and that's registered, and that even has an DOI at this point. SPACE is, we had this flurry of emails over the last week or so. It's this thing to do with naming authorities and DOIs and registries and all this, and we've got to get that all organized so that we can all coordinate better and set up our own individual registries that can be shared and things like that. I think the path is sort of clear at that point, but we'll have to work on that a bit to really get it done. And the DOI business is going to be discussed a lot more later in the week. I think tomorrow, actually. But we now have a DOI minting capability under NASA HPDE, and ESA at least has one. I'm not sure of the other participants who have them. It's something we should find out. And so international coordination is in progress, literally within the last hours. Let's see, not advancing. There, work. Okay, good. Access, there's continuing things. We certainly have lots of different ways to get the data. The main one that's of interest at the moment is HAPPY, and there's increasing involvement in that. In particular, we have at least coordination with ESA and PDS and various other organizations. I think HAPPY has its own presentation later in the week, so I don't have to do the details. But I'm thinking we need a more formal but lightweight organization, that is in terms of people, having somebody sort of be the head of HAPPY and coordinate it. That probably would be within NASA at this point, just because we have control of resources there, and we do have funding for it. So, and it's hard to give that out to anybody else, but certainly we want international collaboration. And advertising is needed, as here's in other projects. HAPPY may be a wonderful thing, but if nobody knows about it, it doesn't matter. Various services. There's continuing things. People are familiar with HelioViewer, SpeedAS, and a number of things like that. But the Python tools, I think, is the biggest new thing on the block. We've had now a couple of years worth of PyHC, Python and Heliophysics community, and it's getting websites organized and whatnot. And again, we'll hear more about that later in the week. There's an IHDEA, Heliophysics Data Environment Enhancements Project, which I run, and we're going to announce the winners of this year's grants with hopefully certainly by next week or sometime next week. So the PyHC meeting, which is next week, will have some knowledge of what's going on there. The last slide I have is this national NASA Heliophysics Digital Resource Library. That's what I'm calling it. It's sometimes just called a data library. The idea is to really bring together all the tools and data and be able to have a general approach to all these topics. It's kind of the NASA internal version of what we're doing with IDEA. And so the archives, SPDF and SDAC, plus HDMC and CCMC have all been meeting together with people at headquarters and trying to say, okay, how can we flesh out these ideas? We have basically all the ideas there, and we want FAIR principles, and we want to implement all those, and we want to implement them across all these different organizations and all that. But the idea is to have NASA Heliophysics be able to really perform the integrations that are needed within its purview, and then of course we want to link that to the international as well. We have lots of spreadsheets and things associated with this, and we're going to have a meeting very soon. They're trying to figure out, there's real support for this. Heliophysics in particular has had, as I say on the last line, one of the most frugal NASA data systems. We spend very little compared to the others. You know, we get a lot of bang for the buck. And so there's a push to actually increase the resources for the data systems and to push them in this direction of maximizing the FAIR principles and all that kind of thing. So there's quite a bit going on. It's harder to do it with COVID, I must say, but we're getting there. So that's it. That's the latest from NASA from my point of view.
Thank you, Aaron. Any questions for Aaron?
Aaron, I was wondering why you didn't list ASCII as a data format. Are we moving away from that?
Well, ASCII is always around. It's not preferred, I don't think, because you have to describe it in such detail every time. ASCII is still, I think, in the data in the data policy, NASA data policy, as something you can use just because it is readable by anything. But it's certainly I used to think when I first started doing this stuff, I thought if I didn't have the ASCII, I didn't have the data. So I got a CDF file, I didn't know what to do with it. And my reaction would be, I wish I had the data. Now that I have tools, I see an ASCII file and I say, oh my. If I have a CDF file or a FITS file, I just pull it into some tool and bring it up instantly, and it's in my variables, and I'm happy, so to speak. I think it's being deprecated, is my sense. But
yeah, it's no longer on my list of SPDF as an allowed format for new missions. So.
And the new missions are certainly not going to use ASCII.
I think PDS is no intention of dropping ASCII.
They finally adopted CDF as a possible format. That was a long fight.
Right. Yeah, but I doubt it's going to go away. I don't know. Todd wants to comment on that.
Okay. Any other comment or question?
Yeah, I have one here, Bruno Marin from ESA. Thanks for the talk, Aaron. I wanted to ask you about this digital resource library project. Could you give us a little bit more information about what's kind of the amount of resources that NASA is putting into these time scales, and whether there are similar initiatives being developed within NASA for other data sets other than heliophysics, or is this particularly meant just for heliophysics?
This is a NASA-wide thing. All 4 major divisions have efforts going on. Heliophysics happens to be the least funded, and so we have the most room for growth in that sense. But I think initiatives are going on in all 4 disciplines: Earth, Astro, us, and Planetary. The nominal thing was to double our budget. Whether that happens, I don't know, but Nikki Fox, the head of heliophysics, has certainly been very welcoming of this initiative. The other budgets don't have enough room to double.
Yeah. But Aaron, aren't a lot of these efforts growing out of the existing data archiving funded activities? They're sort of expanding into the digital resource and the DOI efforts.
Most of it is not stuff that we haven't been doing. The main things that we haven't been doing are these big data efforts and machine learning and getting data next to cloud storage and all that kind of stuff. So that's the major move for us. Other than that, we're just doing exactly what we've been doing, but finishing it. We're adding DOIs, we're adding uniform access methods. I mean, it's nothing new. It's just that we have more resources to actually flesh these things out.
Well, more on the data and model assimilation as well.
Right. No, that's part of this sort of cloud and AI.
So the cloud and computing is more for the modeling on your own.
Not necessarily. I mean, you can do some AI deep dive into a data system to find do semi-empirical predictions of flares or whatever.
Big data tasks.
Somebody wants to look at all of the SDOAIA flare regions and conclude statistical things about whatever. So that's mainly a data task. But certainly the modeling is important too, and integrating the modeling and the data is something that's happening, but it's not on such an easy and grand scale as we would like. And that's the kind of thing also that's going to be part of this digital resource library effort.
For the future, Aaron, I can hear you, but it's a little difficult. Sometimes you tail off a bit. So try to arrange your speaker a little better or something.
Maybe I'll get out my microphone. I'll just get closer to the screen.
Okay. I think we will move to the next talk. Thank you, Aaron. If everybody is happy with that. So next talk is is the CNES highlight. So Daniel, can you try and share your screen?
I have to unshare.
I think so. Yeah.
No, I don't. Okay, I'm fine.
So Daniel, you have to switch your displays because we see the presenter slide.
Can you hear me?
Yes, but you need to switch the displays. If you go to the paramètres d'affichage on the, because we see.
Okay. What do you see?
We see the two slides and not the single one.
Two slides. Okay. Is that better?
Yes. Good. Go ahead. Yes.
And you always hear me because I have closed my.
No, that's fine. Don't go ahead. Yeah.
So I'm Daniel Boucon. It's the first time I joined this meeting, and I work as an engineer specialized in data preservation. So Jean-Christophe Malapert would not be here, and it's me who speaks about the CNES highlights. So as for information, in fact, main of the content of this presentation is included in the paper Space Implementation in CDPP Archive and EMDA Database that is shared with IRAP, and that will be presented slightly by Vincent Génaud tomorrow. So first I will talk about our current situation. I will speak about the new data sets at AMDA for Nicolas André from IRAP. And then I will present our strategic direction and the project we are working on before some words about upcoming projects. Okay. Move. Yes. So the CDPP has already been presented. I think you all know it. So I will just give some overall material and main figures for new people. And so the CDPP was established in 1998 from CNES CNRS collaboration for network plasma data distribution and archiving. And so the CDPP team, scientists and engineers are mainly based in Toulouse, south of France. So the archive gives access to 21 missions in which France has participated. And the missions are varied, and so are the embarked instruments covering the magnetosphere, ionosphere, planetary comets, as you can see on the first graph on the right. Interesting information. In fact, the oldest mission is GEOS, which is more than 40 years old. And what is important to say that there is a continuous flow of new data sets, instruments, and missions that I will just show a bit later. So concerning the data format, all data for CDPP is implemented with data format. However, the more recent ones use CDF ISTG format. For the metadata is based on, for the CDPP on old model, which was defined in 2005. And currently, we are working on a new model based on the space standard. That is the important fact. And we're also thinking about the implementation of DUI, but I won't say more about this because it is not sufficiently developed. The SciPad archiving system is used for data managing, archiving, and dissemination. So you can access data through the website, and the link you can see here, cdpp-archive.cnes.fr. The second figure, you can see on the second figure on the right, the SciPad interface that you will access directly. Finally, CNES plans to change the current storage tech system towards a data lake online and on nearline storage. But this also will be for future meeting, not for now. Then next slide. Okay. So this is an overview of the new missions, experiments, and datasets on CDPP archive side. So we have MMS FPI with 8 datasets from dual electron sensor and dual height sensor. I won't read everything. VEX Aspera with 5 datasets. GEOS S300 and 331 magnetometer with 18 datasets. In fact, what I can say that some datasets are completely new, but for a majority of them, it was a conversion between the native format towards the CDF format. We have also 4 new datasets for a very old mission, which is IC1 sounder, and these are unique data. In preparation, data from Parker Solar Probe, the FIDS SCM instrument, StereoSWI, and Rosetta RPCM. Then this is, I speak for Nicolas André from IRAP, so Nicolas, don't hesitate to complete. This is a large set of new data on the AMDA side for the AMDA database, with the third public solar orbiter in situ data. And you have between brackets you have the corresponding instruments. So I won't read each instrument. First, Parker Solar Probe in situ data, stereo energetic particles, Ulysses particles, Helios, AMPTE magnetic field and plasma, interball magnetic field and plasma, Pregia magnetic field and electron, cluster electron, MMS, Phobos 2 magnetic field and plasma, and solar wind propagation, IHDEA at planets and spacecraft. Okay. Okay, Nicolas?
Yes, perfect. Thanks.
So the continuous flow I have just spoken about is, in fact, is proven by the number of data sets and the data volume you can see here. And you can remark a gap between 2018 and 2020. And this is due mainly to the new missions SEMIS and MMS. Their data is particularly big with a big step comparing to the previous missions, and that will probably be the case for the next future missions. So now let's go to the core of what is the main enlight for the CNES side. As I have said, we have an old data model. Even if the current CDPP model contains a large part that is similar to space, we have some attributes that just don't exist in space. First of all, I can say that the philosophy of space is different, with a different organization of hierarchical sections and subsections. So space is much richer than our CDPP model. So that means that we have a majority of attributes that are equal on both sides, but with a slightly different title that is we can find divided in different parts. For example, the CDPP side dataset is detailed by a dataset description, an instrument description, that is itself detailed by a measurement type, an instrument type, and on the right, on the space side, the dataset is the numerical data. We find the dataset description in the resource header with the instrument identifier and the measurement type at the same level. And we have the instrument in a different section. So this is different organization. We also find main attributes that have to be adapted, but such as the physical parameter that is completely different on both sides. On space side, it is a complex attribute that absolutely does not exist at this level of description on CDPP side. Lists have also to be adapted. So even if a lot of elements are the same on both sides, In fact, some constant elements exist and don't have equivalent. We have also a few attributes that are CDPP specific, such as the attribute experiment that we want to keep. In fact, the reason why we split the current model into two models: a space data model that is fully compliant with space, including the monetary attributes and updated lists. Also, we forecast a set of optional attributes in case they're available. And the other model that is called regards data model contains the specific attributes that we want to keep particularly for the search function. Okay, so saying that, you can understand that there is a very important work of migration. One part can be done in an automatic way using Excel tables and script tools, but you may understand that another part must be done manually with knowledge and a technical part and knowledge of the experiment, of course, from scientists. And in addition, we have to manage continuous flow of experiments, new data sets, etc., etc. So I won't speak more about this. What I think is important and interesting for you and for the meeting, on the practical way, if we consider the users, first, a CDPP user should be able to find and understand the data of interest, of course, basically by seeing the metadata and the regards archiving system interface. And also, regards will offer the possibility to access and get the XML space metadata. Okay, that is first. And then, secondly, if we consider the space community side, the structure of a space, we have a structure of a space repository that will take into account the CDPP archive and also the AMDA database that is already exists. And so you can access this at the following, the address that is, you can see on the GitHub. And if you have a look at the figure on the right, in fact, there will be two distinct but homogeneous contents organized in the hierarchical way under space, high-level elements with numerical data, and then the CDPP archive and CDPP AMDA database. For the moment, CNES metadata has not been completed because it will be planned after the migration period. And so this is the last slide. That is also an important highlight for us because the objective, in fact, is of course to improve the communication with tools, and so to offer with regards unified view of the CNES archive and the AMDA database to search and to select data on both sides. Of course, using the AMDA web services and also with more possibilities of research on services. And then another very important objective is to add value and allow better usage of data by offering interface to CDPP tools, of course, particularly AMDA and contributors, but also other community tools. And this thanks to interoperability protocols such as API, but this is to be developed at this level. So we plan to have an access to the archive and the AMDA unified view with regards by the end of 2021. And the only thing that I can say is that the interoperability will be twisted after that. So that's all. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Daniel. Any question for Daniel? So just before the questions, I'm sorry, Arnaud, I just skipped you and you will talk just after Daniel. Sorry. So any questions for Daniel and the CDPP team?
Daniel, are you mainly storing your data in CDF, or how is it stored?
Sorry?
Is your data stored in CDF format? mainly, or?
Yes, that is really the objective. And that's the reason why, sorry, to close. Yes, all the new data sets are in CDF formats for some years, for many years. And we tend to translate the old missions native format towards the CDF format. But that's not the case. That is not the case for all missions.
Okay, the reason I ask you is because we have a tool to translate from the CDF metadata to SPACE. It doesn't fill everything out, but it gives you a pretty good starting document.
Okay. Can you see this information?
Mm-hmm. Maybe I have a comment. I think the CDPP team and the CNES team will have to come into the discussion of the naming authorities because the scheme that you propose is not really aligned with what has been discussed in the last weeks. So there's probably some discussion, but we will discuss that tomorrow with the SPACE presentation of the CDPP.
In fact, this was I guess this was, or I think it was that was agreed perhaps a long time ago. I don't know.
It probably changed in between.
Yes.
So yes, we have to. But anyway, we will take this time tomorrow with during the SPACE discussion.
Okay.
Quick question. The access rights for the data at CDPP, are those open, or how does the access work?
In fact, it is open, but you have to register. Did I answer the question?
There's a chance of changing the registration requirement? I know I've had this discussion with ESAC, with Arnaud, and we changed it for a cluster.
I'm not sure I understand what you mean. The question is whether it is possibly or not to register.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
No, in fact, it is for the moment a strategy to register in order that we have a track of who is interested in the CDPP data.
Yeah, it makes it a little bit.
Even if the name of the registration name may be not clear at all.
The rest of the NASA systems track IP addresses, but they don't track people.
I think one of the main issues for the CDPP is that there is a shopping basket system, and it's quite difficult to implement a shopping basket system without a login.
Yes.
There's the AMDA web service, isn't there? Isn't there?
AMDA, you can log in as a guest,
yes.
But you lose everything if you close your browser.
Yeah, we have now changed the access to AMDA. You have the registered user, or you can go as a public access. You just have to click enter, and then you enter. This is what you call the guest login.
Yes.
I can't come in with my IDL session and just get data from a web service. I can with cluster, for example, from ESAC. I can do that.
Yeah. Yeah. Go ahead.
Before we do the top plans to have a happy server, how access be in that case? This has come up several times.
You're really breaking up, Jeremy.
Yeah, okay, Jeremy.
We can't hear you, Jeremy, yet.
I'll email it. Sorry, I'll email.
Maybe you can type in your question if you want. In the
chat window.
It is cut.
Yeah, now it's yeah. There's probably some echo somewhere, but
yeah, we should all mute and let him try
he
again.
sent an email. Okay, we will discuss that offline, and maybe we'll come back in the next days. Sorry, Jeremy.
No problem.
Well, anyway, there is an API, a web service, but which needs a token to be able to connect. So you need. I've implemented some interface to that, so I don't have to log in, but I have a token, so I have an account basically. Okay, so let's go to Isa. Sorry, Arnaud, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Okay, let me share. So, can you see my presentation?
Yeah.
Okay, so yes, please mute if you're not speaking. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm very happy to present the ESA highlights related to ID. So my name is Arnaud Masson. I'm the ESA Heliophysics Archive Science Lead at ESA, at the ESA Science Data Center. So 5 points. Of course, the release of the Solar Orbiter Archive, science data. So I will talk about that, and already the tools to access and the services that are already accessing this Solar Orbiter data. On the cluster side, the implementation of a cluster module in SPIDAS, and the fact, as Aaron said, that we require no credentials to request data from the REST API. We'll talk also a bit about HAPI. The third point is an interesting one because it's a SOC request from BP Colombo and JUICE, which partially led to an upgrade of the space data model, which was released last week. The fourth point is about the minting of DOI that we did related to all experiments on ESA heliophysics spacecraft, apart from Solar Orbiter, which is ongoing. The last point is about the inclusion of IHDEA within VSO. This is work in progress, and we'll start to provide Proba2 data through the VSO, and this work will lead quickly to the implementation of Solar Orbiter data availability, and eventually SO when we upgrade the backend also. Okay, Solar Orbiter Archive, it's here. We released the first scientific data at the end of September, so it's very recent. And we have a full archive, both website and tab server for requesting data. This was quite a challenge because this is science data, calibrated science data made public only 3 months after measurements, as we announced it. So we're really happy to fulfill this requirement. At the moment, we have 3 instruments providing data. The energetic particle detector, APD, DC magnetic field, and also radio and plasma waves. The fourth in situ instrument, the solar wind analyzer data, will become available by the end of November. Also, we'll have most likely some EUI data, so FITS files. With this archive, it's SAM compatible, so we can send data to external applications like Autoplot, for instance. So this is already in place. The data also were made accessible through HelioPy. So I will talk quickly about that when we have our session on Python tools. And we will work also to make Solar Orbiter Archive accessible through EPN TAP and other Python libraries, but most likely by the beginning of next year. Cluster
The
Space
solar,
Archive.
the solar orbiter data is also going to be made available through the NASA archives.
Yes.
Yeah.
So everything that is made public, all the public science data are immediately transferred to NASA. A bit like when the new SO data are available on the SDAC side, are transferred to ESA. For the cluster data, yes, so in SPIDAS, as you can see on the right, so you've got the SPIDAS with all the tabs for all the missions. Now, happy to report this inclusion of the cluster mission within all these missions. So this is very important because it's really well used. And for multi-mission studies, like cluster with MMS or THEMIS, this is essential to be there. So I would like to thank Jim Lewis and his colleagues for doing this work. This is very important. This has also triggered this multi-mission aspect, the fact that no credentials are now needed to access cluster data through its REST API. And regarding API implementation, there are ongoing discussions between John van der Greef and Jeremy Faden with our group at ESA to implement API for accessing cluster. Now, this is a very interesting request from BP Colombo and JUICE Science Operations Center. They had this obligation for on PDS4. PDS4 products requires a space ID, and they just asked the question about the telemetry and housekeeping data products in particular. And this was indeed not clear how to register them. And I mean, if you take only the sensor temperature, this is a numerical data, and in the support quantity, you had no option of telemetry or housekeeping. You had to register something like other, and this was not clear. And in the end, if you have a particular instruments and you have a sensor temperature, then can come some confusion between science and especially housekeeping data. So now, after some discussions, this telemetry and housekeeping names have been added to the dictionary, and so those are now very easier to distinguish with regards to science products. There are also some missing things like PDS3 and PDS4 formats were not included in the list of formats, so that has been added. I also asked for this mission manager role, which is kind of project manager after the launch. So this is also now added, and this is how space telecoms are very useful, because we can exchange some. Sometimes the terms are not completely the same. We use a lot about experiment in Europe and more instrument suites in the US. So this telecom makes people talk and speak the same language, and eventually upgrade the metadata model. Concerning DOIs, we have registered 47 DOIs related to experiments on board Cluster, Double Star, SOHO, Proba2, Ulysses, and ISS Solaces. So this is an example on the right about DOI landing page. This is for Solar Orbiter, so this is a draft at the moment, but this is to show you, we have always the same structure, the same scheme, with the experiment name, the description of the experiment, data set, the PI, and so on. And this is quite useful for citing the data in papers. We made the extra effort to add a JSON script. I will explain you that tomorrow in details. But we add a JSON script on top of each DOI landing page, so it's also discoverable on Google Dataset Search. And for that, we use a number of keywords, of parameters, and one of these parameters is is a keyword. and keywords can be extracted also from the space models and this information included in space. And also the keywords that we have gathered not from space but from the PI can be also can be used to fuel also space keywords. This is a quick example of if you type on Google Dataset Search SOHO Golf, you see the full description which are related to the JSON script we put in with the experiment name, a link to the key reference paper, the PI names, and of course a link to our archive and a quick description of the data set Golf is generating. But I'll explain you more about that tomorrow. A final point, this is about ESDC within VSO. So we ask Jack Island, many thanks to him, and also Edmund Monsky, for our archive to be accessible through the VSO. So this is not there yet, but this is an ongoing activity. And especially we want the data to be accessible through VSO via our TAP server. And the first on the list will be Proba 2, Lyra and DSLP data, which are not available through the VSO. And once it's done, then Solar Arbiter should be straightforward because it's using the same TAP server. And eventually, so when we upgrade the backend to the TAP server. And yeah, I will stop there. Thank you. If you have any questions.
Well, I have one comment. Because the schema.org metadata is kind of invisible, the generated pages at HPDE.io, which serve as landing pages, does include the schema.org metadata, so they should be discoverable by the Google data search.
And they are.
And that's extracted from the space description itself. So they should be self-consistent. So the things that are done automatically, if you register the metadata in the generation of those landing pages, should be helpful in the discovery. So that's it.
Okay, thanks.
So I have a comment. So you say that the VSO is using TAP to access to your collections.
So it will use. This is an ongoing work from Edmund, and we gave a number of examples, and he's been working on it to make it available through TAP.
Okay, so it means that they are implementing, or they already have a TAP client?
No, they are implementing.
Okay, because there are other solar observation databases that already have or are being implementing TAP services, so that could be very interesting.
Yeah.
Okay, good.
Baptiste, is there a list anywhere of those data sets?
Yes, I can put that in the short slides that I prepare for tomorrow.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Okay, if there is no other question, we switch to Miyoshi-san.
Okay, can you hear me?
Hi.
Yes.
Okay, so I'd like to share. Just a moment. Can you look at my screen, my PowerPoint?
Yes, it works.
Okay.
Good.
Okay, thank you. So Okay, so my name is Yoshi Miyoshi for the project scientist of the RSA, the ERG. And firstly, thank you very much for the great effort to realize this meeting. So we are very happy to join this meeting. Okay, so we are going to talk about the Japanese heliophysics satellite project data management activity, including the Hinode and Arase, which we have already reported last year. And now that we are discussing our activity should include a new mission. The one is the Solar Sea, the EVST. This is the new flagship mission for the solar. The telescope will be launched in 2026 and the baby column the MIO. So this is just the launch of 2018 and expect arrival of 2025. So currently the Shinohara-san, he is the ERG project manager, he joined this meeting. And Murakami-san, he is the project scientist of the MIO, the MIO, he also joined this meeting. And Matsuda-san, he also joined this meeting. And Imada-san, he is the project scientist of the Solar Sea EBST, he also joined this meeting. And Hori-san, the ERG Science Center guy, he also joined this meeting. So if you have any question about this mission, please, sorry, let us ask later. And firstly, we'd like to mention the summary of our activity, then we talk about each missions. So, okay. So the slide indicates that our activity, that this is a collaboration staff between the ISAS and JAXA, that this is the space agency, and IC, the Nagoya University. So the last year that we have reported our activity, so the Science Center for the Hinode and ERG, they are operated by both the ISAS and Nagoya University. So this year that we start a discussion to include the new mission, the Solar Sea VST and baby called the MIO. Because now the Japanese community is discussing the heliospheric, the system science. So actually we see so many the in situ observation. So the big column and the solar orbiter, the Parker solar probes, and the JAXA and approved the new mission, the Solar Sea VST, the middle 2020. So that this is a pretty nice opportunity for comprehensive understanding in the heliosphere. That's why we are starting the discussion for the United Science Center system that include these missions. So the main task for this activity, so the first stuff is the data archive with a standard format like a CDF and a FIT format. And also we developed the necessary integrated analysis tool like a Solar Soft and Speedus for the IDL and Python. And also we'd like to contribute the science operation planning to coordinate the observations. So here is the summary slide to show the current status and updates since last year. So the first is the ERG Science Center activity. The ERG's RSA, the Science Center runs the science data production pipelines. And the most level 2 and level 3, these data, the calibrated data. So these products are routinely generated and archived in the CDF format. And please visit us, the ERG Science Center, and you may see the different kind of so many files for the level 2 and level 3, the CDF, the data files. So these data open to the public with the 1 year release. And as I mentioned later, so we request the user, to specify the version number of each CDF data files in their papers for traceability on the individual file basis. And also we have developed the Speedus plugin tool for the ERG, the data analysis. And some of them are bundled to the Speedus releases. Probably you may look at the ERG directory that includes the several the plugin, the software that necessary for the ERG data analysis. And the data repository of the ERG Science Center has been registered on the d3data.org. And also our institute, the IC, the Nagoya University, has obtained the membership of a Japan Link Center, JALC, which is a data site member. So now we are start to meet the data DOI for our own data. And we'd like to share the information, the data DOI for the ERG, the science data very soon. And as a future direction, so as we have mentioned, the United Science Center for the Heliothrex System Sciences, that includes Hinode and Arase, those are current mission, and Vepicon Mio and Solar CEBST will be included in the, the United Science Center. Okay, from here, we'd like to talk about each mission. And I'd like to switch to Imada-san, he's a project scientist of the Solar C, the EBST.
Okay, I would like to briefly introduce you solar part of the Science Center. And for the Hinode Science Center, for the promotion of Hinode science output, a Japanese Science Center is formed at IC, Nagoya University, where analysis tools, calibration, and computer environment for data analysis are provided to the researchers. And as you know, Hinode has 3 telescopes, so the data is a little bit complicated. And Hinode data has many kind of data sets. But in our system, we can manage the all of 3 telescope data with our computer environment. And the upper right-hand figure shows data flow. Hinode data is going to the ISAS JAXA first, and ground data processing were performed and produced the FITS data, and simultaneously it's transferred to the Hinode Science Center in Nagoya University. And in the Hinode Science Center, give analysis environment or provide some Hinode prep calibration program for producing the level 1 data to the research community. And actually, in Hinode Science Center, we also provide simulation or numerical modeling data also. For example, nonlinear force-free field extrapolation, magnetic field inversion data, or whatever. And combining these data with Hinode data, we can promote the Hinode science output. That's what we are wanted to do. And originally, Hinode Science Center was at the National Astronomical Observatory, Japan. But after, as you know, the large earthquake in Japan, we realized it's very dangerous to put in one place. So we set up Hinode Science Center at Nagoya. Nagoya is not Tokyo area. Actually, ISAS is in Tokyo area. So we separate the data center too. Next slide, please. And we now also prepare to set up the Solar C Science Center at IC. These are what we want to do with Solar C Science Center. And now we are also discussing task sharing for other country, for example, US or Europe. And the concept of the Solar C Science Center is very similar to the Hinode Science Center or ERG Science Center. So the left part of the red one is Hinode or Solar C data. And combined with other ground-based observation or satellite observation, we will promote more Solar C science output. And also, we also want to provide a simulation data, for example, potential field extrapolation, nonlinear force-free field, or radiative MHD, whatever. And those are provided to the solar community and discuss more productive science. That's what we want to do with the Solar C EUVST Science Center. Okay, that's it.
Okay, thank you, Imada-san. Okay, so I continued the ERG and also the baby called the MIO. So this slide indicates the overview of the ERG, the RSA project. One of the important points, the ERG project consists not only the satellite project, but also the ground-based observation and the simulation stuff. So now that we should integrate different kind of the data set. So this is a scheme for the data pipeline. So the satellite data, the ground-based data, and the simulation data, all kind of the ERG, the project data archived in the Science Center as a CDF, the format. Then we'll provide these data to the public. And also we are developing the integrated analysis tool as a the part of the speeders. So now the user can access these data easily using the speeders tools. Okay, so and then we'd like to share the information on the baby column, the MIO. So the MIO is the Mercury, the magnetosphere orbiter, and actually, so the satellite already launched the 2018, and the satellite arrived the Mercury the end of the 2025. And the MIO has a different kind of the plasma. The instrument include the exosphere, the dust monitor. And now that we are talking about the MIO, the Science Center. So the collaboration between the space agency, the ISAS JAXA, and the IC Nagoya University, especially focusing the plasma, the particle and magnetic field, the plasma wave instruments, that they are very similar to the ERG, the RSA. So this is the task for the MIO Science Center. So the first task is the science data production for the MIO and the data sharing with the ESA. And also the MIO Science Center to produce the higher level of the data with the added value. And also the MIO Science Center try to contribute the development integrated analysis tool, maybe based on the speeders. And also the MIO Science Center has a plan for the science observation planning. For example, the coordinate observation with the solar orbiter, the Parker solar probe, solar CBST, and ground-based observation. So we are now discussing such the possibility. And the next slide indicates the planned pipeline to produce the science data of the MIO. So after receiving the science data as a level 0 data, so the level 1 data produced the CDF format, the FIT format, and ASCII format. And then the MIO Science Center generated level 2 data that will be open to the public with the CDF, FIT, and ASCII, and PDS, all the file format. And actually the necessary calibration and also the higher level data, so implemented in the MIO Science Center, but this is the basic schemes. Okay, so the next slide is the last slide. So we'd like to share our activity to guarantee the traceability from an article to the science data. So this is the common stuff for the different, the missions. So the ERG project now requires the users to write the version number of the user data in acknowledgement. Probably you may see the example for the acknowledgement for the geophysical research data, and the author mentioned what kind of the data file version that they use for their analysis. So actually the data version continues to be implemented as a new calibration, the correction method, and everybody can reproduce the same analysis as the author did with exactly the same data files. So and also the necessary information, for example, the source data, data process program, etc., that should be stored in the CDF file format as a metadata. So that guarantees the traceability up to the level of the raw data as it's processing the code. Okay, to stop here. So any question for the total scheme and each project?
Thank you. Any questions? So.
If nobody else has a question, hi Yoshi, this is Lee, and what I'm wondering about is versioning is always a big problem. Are you guys saving all versions of your data over time?
Depend on the project. So far as that we try to archive all the version number, but actually the disk space is limited, so that we may decide maybe the older version maybe removed, or the moved to tape archive or something.
Yeah, I mean it's an interesting problem because reproducibility is one of the things in science that's so important.
Yeah. Yeah, so actually our policy, so that we can reproduce all version data from the raw data. For example, if user requests the specific data version, so that we Science Center can generate the the corresponding file data file the version.
So I guess you use hash values to make sure that that's happening.
Yeah, so it's possible, and yeah, so actually very fortunately, so now we have the huge data disk, so that we can store all the the version, the data files. So far.
Oh, thank you.
This approach certainly runs into problems eventually. So we are going to have to deal with this, perhaps in some other way, ultimately. It's just too much data.
Okay, so thank you, and so we are 15 minutes behind schedule.
Okay, thank you.
So I will share my screen with the presentation on the Observatory of Paris. I will try to be short. You have the slides online, so you will be able to have a look later if you want. Let me share. Somebody can take notes because I won't take notes while I'm talking. Okay, so this is the highlights for the Paris Observatory in the frame of ID. So I will discuss those points. So our instrumental and data activity in heliophysics, a few words about registering resources in space, a few words on Maser, Vespa, BAS 2000, and the radio data that we are hosting. So we have both instrumental and data activity related to heliophysics in the Paris Observatory. Most of this is done with support from CNRS, which is our national research agency, and CNES, French space agency. And so we are leading a few heliophysics instrumentation projects. For instance, we are the PI on the radio and plasma wave science on Solar Orbiter, and we are also doing the science ground segment for this experiment. I am the co-PI on the JUICE radio and plasma wave investigation. So this is for the present space missions, and we're also involved in MIO. We have provided an instrument, a very sensitive instrument, and we have also ground-based observatories, mostly in Nancy for radio astronomy. Many instruments with quite old ones from the 80s and 70s, and new ones that I will present shortly. We also have a new activity in Meudon with a SID antenna, sudden ionospheric disturbances, which we are developing and on instrumental and data parts. We also have an open science policy at the observatory where we decided to put all our data in an open data process with two data centers, one in Paris called PADC and one in Nancy called CDN. We put DOIs on all of our collections. We use ORCIDs for persons. And we try to implement community APIs like HAPI, for instance, and community metadata like SPACE. We try to enforce also the use of data management plan to support, so as a support tool for a science team to be able to predict what they are going to do with the data and plan for the storage, for instance, or the costs of the data management, and also for the planning of the data center. And we are also participating to the European Open Science Cloud, which is a European-wide initiative to set up an open science cloud. So we have worked on registering new space resources. So there is a detailed presentation, so I don't come into the details here. And so we have reorganized the observatory and instruments under the Paris Observatory. We have included new repositories, updating the person resources, and we are working on the numerical data and display data with questions and discussion points that are in that presentation. About the MASER project, so MASER is a science-ready toolbox for low-frequency radio astronomy. So the acronym is in French, so I don't describe it here, but basically it's about measurement, analysis tool, simulations for radio emissions. And so we are sharing through standard APIs data collections from various spacecraft we have data from, and from ground-based instruments. We have modeling tools, modeling radio emissions. We have also ray tracing propagation for radio astronomy. And we share data through various interfaces, data discovery interface named VESPA, and data access, streaming access, mostly DAS2 at the moment, happy in the future. We also build software to access this data in Python. We selected Python, and so the web page is there. So VESPA, a few words about VESPA. VESPA is a European funded project, European Commission funded project. So it's a virtual European solar and planetary access. And heliophysics is part of the solar system, and it's one of the main topics in the new program that is ongoing now, with solar remote sensing databases, radio astronomy, and in situ plasma. VESPA is really oriented on data discovery. So the table contains one line per data product with a URL pointing to a file that you can download. And the metadata that are in this table are the coverage, temporal, spectral, spatial coverage, the provenance, what instrument, what data level, and the access. Is it the size of the file, for instance, the format of the file? And so you can search on those parameters to find data of interest for a given study. And there are many heliophysics metadata catalogs that are already available. Currently, it's 1/3 of all services that are published, and there are more to come. And one thing that we're really working now is to go on the cloud, using cloud services, and we are in a prototyping phase to host VESPA services on cloud technologies. And the goal is to support small data providers who cannot maintain their own server, and we are using this European Open Science Cloud for this. About solar data, so there is this BAS 2000 database, which is a ground-based database for ground-based solar observations. There is a presentation by Jean Aboudaram this week. It contains daily solar images in various wavelengths, reference solar spectrum, and feature catalogs of sun and heliophysics phenomena. It has also DOIs for collections, and it is a certified data center by the World Data System. About radio data, so the data, so we have a data center that we are building and consolidating mostly in Nancy, which proposes storage and computing for radio astronomy. We have heliophysics instruments, which are used for supporting space missions, and the two main ones that are known by the community usually is the radio heliograph and the decameter array. So the radio heliograph is under a heavy maintenance for some years, so we hope it will come live again sometime soon. And the Nancy decameter array is operating and has been operating since the 90s with digital data and since the 70s with analog data. And there is a new instrument called NENUFAR, which is an extension of the European LOFAR telescope that observes from 10 to 80 megahertz. And there is a Sun Key project with very nice observations. The two figures there are the new Nancy decameter array instrument viewed in autoplot through a DAS2 interface on the left-hand side, and on the right-hand side it's just a snapshot of the Sun Key Project's observation, recent one. So you see it's a few minutes of data and a few megahertz with very high resolution on a type 2 emission. I will finish by this slide to show the overall data volume concerning heliophysics that we are managing in Observatory of Paris with the various projects I mentioned. So we have exceeded 200 terabytes, and we are still including new data sets, and so we. This is the inventory is in progress, and the number will increase. And the idea is to have all of those data in open access with standard protocols and APIs as soon as possible. Thank you. Any questions? No. Everybody's tired. Okay. So if there's no other question, Arnaud, do you have a presentation to show on the other tools?
Yes. I just got one slide.
Yeah, good.
So let me share it. Okay. And I would like to give this link as well in the chat. Okay. Okay, so I wanted to tell everybody that we have a public ID Confluence area at IHDEA. So I send you the link in the chat. And so those are public access. And as you can see here, so let me make it bigger. Okay. If you go to this link, you will be able to see the minutes of the two plenary meetings that we had in 2019 and 2018. And each of these links, you can visualize the presentation from the people who attended these meetings. So this is a way to store all the presentation that were given. This is the public area, but we can also create for future working groups also private access for them to discuss their own topic. So not everything is public at the beginning. Once everybody agrees to release these notes or documents, then we can make them public, no problem. So this is Christophe Arvizet has gently agreed to provide a number of licenses for the exec members and working group members. So with that, sharing files is possible. Every page that you see, you can export it into Word or PDF. If you are in a private page, you can get notification whenever an update is made. So this is quite handy. And when you work on an active document, of course, you can work as many people as you want on the same document. So this is a collaborative tool. The only thing that maybe it's my lack of knowledge on Confluence, but I don't think there is a group chat, like Slack, on Confluence, as far as I know.
No, there's nothing like this. Yeah. We can connect. It is possible to use Slack if we can and connect it to Confluence. For instance, to have in the Slack group having notification of modification on Confluence, for instance, or comments that are posted. So this is possible in this sense. If people can't use Slack, we may think of another tool if we need a chat tool.
Currently, NASA has not approved our using Slack yet.
I was also going to ask the same question about Confluence.
Confluence, NASA is using this for planetary at least. So
that's a good sign then. Does it have a downloaded app, or is it simply
no? It's web. It's a browser only.
Okay, that's also helpful.
Yeah, if you click on that link, you've got everything from the browser. No need to download any application.
It's like a wiki. It's just what you see is what you get. Wiki.
Oh no, this seemed to be last year. Are we going to have the same thing for this year?
Yes.
Yeah. This is just an example on last year.
Yes, but this year we're going to have the same thing.
Yeah.
Oh, great, thank you.
So the idea is really to discuss and agree if we move forward with this Confluence, or if people are proposing an alternative solution. For Slack at IHDEA, it's not really clear if it's authorized really. I don't think it's an official tool at all, but people are still using it. So I don't know, Christophe, maybe things have changed.
I
don't know.
Yeah, no, true. I mean, it's in the pro. I mean, I think Slack has two different. You can use Slack, a free version of Slack. So there are some people who are doing that. And in parallel to that, we are actually discussing with to formally purchase the Slack licenses, so we can have a Slack instance which fits the European on the IHDEA personal data protection rules and constraints. I think we have licenses for Confluence. We have licenses up to 2,000 users, so it's no problem for us to actually give access to all the IHDEA users, the exec, the working group members, and any other new people who would like to join. For Slack, because we have not formally procured it yet, I can't tell how many licenses we're going to have. So,
okay.
For Slack, it's possible to use the free version. It's just that you lose all messages when you go beyond 10,000 messages. You lose the old ones.
Yeah,
this is the only thing that is different.
Well, I imagine that from NASA on IHDEA, the other thing that is different is that Slack does not, the Slack free version does not fill in let's say the rules and regulations with regard to personal data protection. At least from IHDEA, that's
sure.
I don't think Slack is yet quite legalized by NASA, so we're
But Confluence is because in the context of the IHDEA, so the International Planetary Data Alliance, we are actually using the JPL Confluence server. So the offer we are making here from IHDEA is that we could, we can give Confluence licenses to the IHDEA community. So we actually use that as a collaboration platform. Okay, for the time being, Arnaud has put the agenda on the minutes of meetings on the presentations from our previous meetings, but we could also create there areas for working groups, for example, so people could actually share documents as well.
Yeah.
I actually had that question too is what's the scope of what we're trying to achieve here? Is this just for the IHDE sort of operations and stuff? Because as Christoph pointed out, we're probably going to have individual working groups focused on certain areas. Like we discussed earlier about how SPACE might become more of a working group under IDEA. And it, I'm kind of thinking that certain working groups might actually have discussion channels already. Happy is a good example where they use GitHub issues and a wiki there to capture all their group discussions. I'm not sure we want to mandate one for everything is my point.
I think I agree with you, and I think if something already exists for some areas like SPACE or API or other, I think we can continue to keep them. But the good thing is that for the other ones, then we can offer that platform and we can use, so people don't have to actually think, okay, where do I put the information? And I think from the IDEA perspective, what we could still do is, if in the page 3 that we see on Arnold's presentation, Arnold's view graph, we could always make a link to a SPACE, and if you go to that page, then it will actually link to the GitHub area where the SPACE people are having the discussion. So then you know that if you go to the IDEA Confluence webpage, you will find the information, all the information about IDEA, either directly into the IDEA Confluence or through a link to wherever the working groups have been working on.
Yeah.
Instead of knowing by heart, where are all these links?
Right. We need something that maps all those out and tells you where to go. And I totally agree there. I haven't.
Is that everyone can actually edit. Whereas I think the current IDEA web pages, we have to go through you to request any editing. So, I mean, in that case, this thing is more for collaboration on the internals of the IDEA.
Oh, no,
that's my. Go ahead, Ran, but I have a question about that. Go ahead.
All right. Right now, we have downloaded these conference pages, I guess, on the IDEA website. So it's there as well.
Okay.
Right, and that was kind of my question is, having it on Confluence is great as it's an active thing. You're developing the agenda, you're posting presentations and stuff. But as Ren pointed out, once the meeting's done, we should what we're trying to do is sort of archive the results of the meeting at the IDEA website rather than just reference, say, the Confluence pages. And I just wondered what everybody else thought about that approach. I like having an archive of the meeting that is probably separate from the Confluence page.
I think that's a good idea. And this is something that I'm sure you can export the Confluence page as static pages. This is something that we can try to do. And
yes, we can. I think we can export.
This is what we've done.
Yeah.
I think it was exported either as Word or PDF. I can't remember.
But how do you export then also all the presentations?
Yes, it's all links. So as long as your basic links are right, then everything else works out. Yeah. And it is on the website right now, and the links do work.
Yeah, this is probably, I don't think we can solve this now, but this is, I agree, something that we have to work on. Yeah.
Hello, dear Beatriz speaking. Just something that maybe also be helpful is that from this Confluence, we can not only export to Word and PDF, but also we can publish pages. So if we have access to the IDEA server where the web page is, we can directly say, okay, now we are done with this one, so we can publish, and then it can appear on the IDEA web page. Just something to keep in mind.
That's interesting.
Yeah. And we can also make up a template that will that will correspond to the ID template, for instance, for the web pages. So there are plenty of things. It's very versatile for that. I think the first goal here is to provide a way to have an interactive place to discuss things and store information. Then it's very important to, when we decide on something, when we have to put it on a static web page like the ID web page as a summary, and maybe point to the discussion that is on Confluence, for instance.
So you would treat the Confluence site as a working area?
Yeah, I would say so, yes.
Yeah, those are active, editable documents or aspects of the meeting.
And that would
and at some point, you kind of close out things and then you kind of archive them at the main site.
Right. So the idea is that would capture all the final product.
Yes, that's the suggestion.
Basically,
that's what we've been trying to do, or Ren is actually actively doing, and just want to make sure everybody sort of buys in on that as our approach.
Yeah.
So
if, for instance, we come up we discuss a new recommendation on some topic on Confluence, in the end, we will write up a document using that, and we will put it onto the ID webpage as a documentation. Well, this is the way I would propose to use that.
Yes.
And Confluence is really nice to have this kind of collaborative work.
And we just, for external folks like us at NASA, we don't need account, right? We can just log to the web page and then do things.
If you want to have a name next to your comment, it's better to have an account. If not, you will be anonymous.
I see.
Can't just be putting your name into a system, right?
That could be good too, being anonymous.
Yeah, I think that if you want to edit, you will need an account.
Yes. But so there's one thing that is nice in this system also. So usually we have to also set rules on how to use this tool. It's good that there is one person or a small set of persons that are editors of a page, and we use comments to propose modifications. If not, it's a mess.
Yes.
So if you post a comment, you can put your name first if you don't want to register, and we know that you have posted it. But you won't have a notification that there is a response to your comment.
That actually is a problem I find about Google Docs.
Yeah.
Many of you have used Google Docs. If you are collaborating on a document, you can just go ahead and make changes to the document unless you follow the versions, the tracks, right? Otherwise, the best way to use the Google Doc is to make suggestions about changes, and then it's posted on the side that who made what changes.
Mm-hmm.
If you just edit the document, that makes it very intractable.
Yes. Yeah. So these are the kind of rules that we have to agree in the first place.
And clearly this is an important issue, and I think it's clear that this needs to be some sort of funded activity. This can't happen by itself without some kind of support.
Okay, so the question is, do we agree to go ahead this way? Do we vote? Or is it a consensus? Is it a consensus decision without any...
I like it.
I think if you're willing to do the work, I'm okay with that.
Okay. Okay, then let's go.
Confluence, we're agreeing that Confluence is the sort of working pages, and the IHDEA.net is the archival pages. That's what we're agreeing.
So would it have caught a question on this discussion about the naming authorities and stuff? It'd be nice to capture the running dialogue like that. And can Confluence do something like that?
So under each page, you can have you can put comments, and so you can reply to comments as on the forum. That's the same. And it would be a little bit more easy to follow than the emails that we have now,
Yeah.
I think. But then the good thing would be that you would, so if somebody starts to write something, you can, when you select a text, maybe you can show it how it works. You select a text and there is a small bubble that appears and you can write up your comment. And then the comment appears on the right-hand side, like on Google Doc, and then you can reply and discuss on each of those comments. And then when we agree, we can modify the text. And that proves to be a very a nice way of processing this kind of discussion.
Okay, so you mean actually creating a document and then people will provide comments?
Yeah, we can start with something.
Okay.
Rather than an email chain, you create that initial document and say, here's the discussion point, and let's talk about it.
Exactly. I mean, John was kind of pointing out something like the whole naming authority discussion started as just sort of a question posted in an email. And then the thread just keeps going.
And most of that information, it's hard to reconstruct.
So what I would propose, for instance, is somebody decides, okay, I will try to do a summary of this discussion. I write it on a page, and then the people who made comments that are not on that summary, they will put comments. And we will try to complete that summary.
I don't know if you see my screen, but at the bottom you see, these are the minutes of the last meeting, and you can add a comment here if you want. But you need here you need to log in.
Right, but it's just a matter of
if you select a piece of text, you can also add a comment, I think.
Yeah, so that's.
So how does one create a document?
I have to have an account here.
You need an account and some privileges to do that.
Yes.
But okay, we will set that up for you.
Okay. It's a free account.
Sorry, Arnaud. I think most of the people that comes from at least the second IHDEA meeting, they already have the accounts.
Probably.
Yes, because I think there was an action Beatrice, you're right. There was an action last time for us to create accounts to all the people who participated to the meeting. So all have received the.
Right.
So probably at least kind of 20 people, I think, were added.
Okay.
I have to go back to my cheat sheet to find out.
Yeah, and by the way, if you
we can find it.
Yeah, if you ever logged into the Solar Archive or any other, let's say, services that we have offered to ISAC, it's the same username and password. So I remember when we created the meeting at ISAC, for example, if you register to the meeting at ISAC at that time, that would be the same username and password.
Okay.
We created a specific ID area, and I wanted to show this because set that up for to have really public pages, where you don't have to, nobody has to log in. But then there is a specific ID area, which is a private area where you need an account to see it.
If you reload the page, I just posted a comment.
Okay.
If you go down, yes. So this charter is so I just selected the text and then yes. So I'm anonymous because I'm not logged in.
Yeah.
Okay.
But
I think just as we go forward, I think we just have to recognize if something comes up in the email, we say, "Oh, okay, I'll start a discussion on this in Confluence." And then we all have to switch over to that because those topics sort of pop up almost randomly as somebody encounters an issue or has a technical question. And so we just have to be, I guess, disciplined enough to know we've got to start an issue and we'll discuss it on a tracking site. So
one of the problems is,
so how do you get notified if something?
I mean, that's the issue. Because this whole discussion could be going on and you have no clue if you're not getting some email.
Yeah, if you're not logged on, you wouldn't know.
No, I mean, what is clear is that Okay, to get the full power of the Confluence, you need to register. You need to have an account. That's really the
So
best.
if you're registered, would you get a notification of activity?
You need to be tagged into the meeting, basically, and then you get notifications of all modifications to the file afterwards.
Yeah.
Like in a lot of meetings with CCMC, they give an attendance list, and then any changes to that file later on, I get emails with updates because I've been tagged as being part of it.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, Arno, if we agree to continue with Confluence, what we might need to do is to at least create some top-level page organization, so then to avoid that, so then people will know, depending what we create, what new page we create, it's not randomly put anywhere, but it's under the appropriate organization of an IDEA meeting or any specific working group.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I think Beatrice did the job already, and yeah, there is not a lot of work to do now.
Okay.
Well, you will probably have to send again the login and things like that.
Yeah.
Try to log in. I can't find. Yeah, it's not working.
You forgot password.
What we can send you is the email, probably the username you registered with.
Okay.
But probably if you don't remember the password, you will need to reset it.
Okay.
I mean, all the information will go in the email. Just one thing that I don't know if this is already clear for everyone, but at least not for me. I mean, this kind of discussions that you were discussing about, no, that pop-ups on emails and so on, this should go into the public page, which means that even non-registered users are able to watch, to follow them, or this kind of discussion will go onto the private area. So only people that has an account can watch them. I mean,
I don't know what would be the answer of the other. To me, we are an open alliance, so anybody could have access to this kind of discussion, unless we think there is sensitive information, and then no. But to me, the discussion that we are having on the naming authorities, we would, I think it would be interesting to have views from external people.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so by default, then the pages will go, let's say, on the public, and then only specifically, then they may be subject to be created on the private. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a couple of notes about the immediate meeting. I was wondering if it'd be possible to put all of the presentations into a zip file and put a link to that as well. So instead of clicking through every one of the talks and then clicking on the several different presentations or something.
It's possible, but it's just very big, when you compile all of these, this is a lot. But
okay.
Because some are very small and some are very big, for some reason.
Okay. And the other thing is, I'm not able to get the pad part to come up. The MD pad page, the notes page.
It doesn't work?
It doesn't. It says site can't be reached.
Yeah, that's right. I clicked on it this morning. It didn't come up.
Okay. Well, I have to check that because there are 12 people that are connected, but it's not representative. Maybe it's only the people from the observatory. I don't know. I have to check that.
I'm connected to it.
Okay.
I can see it.
Yeah, me
okay.
too.
So I don't know.
Could be the NASA folks have a block or something.
Yeah, or it's too many people connecting at the same time. This is a thing that we set up during the lockdown to be able to work together on online documents. So it's quite nice, but I never tried to connect 70 people at the same time.
So, Beatrice, are you going to send around everyone's login again? Because I also cannot find mine.
Leave it too.
I will send kind of a reminder email to
or at least how to reconstruct
and username,
yeah.
and then and also with the link for resetting your password. Because you will need. I mean, if you have forgotten, you may try. No, I mean, if you have kind of this is the usual. I
it works for me. I'm on. I'm looking at the third IDEA meeting webpage again. So I'm.
Yeah, but are you able to log in?
Yeah, I'm on the same page that Arnaud is showing.
Oh,
but are you logged in as a Xingfeng or with the public access?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, I put in my username password, so yeah, I'm logged on.
Good.
I think it's for my. How do I find out what my name is?
At the top right, there is the icon, and when you mouse over.
Yeah, I recognize my own name.
Okay, good.
That's good.
So you're in.
I found my cheat sheet.
The boss has always an account.
Yeah.
Now I can see everything.
I have it stored as cas.cosmos. So maybe everybody has it under a different name.
Yeah, that's possible. Okay, so unless there are other questions, burning questions now, I propose to release the people. And when it's late at night, I propose that the Japanese can go to bed.
Maybe they're already half asleep.
Maybe. I recall that not all the presentation have been put on the website yet for tomorrow. So if you can't upload them by yourself, please send them to me. I will put them online. And for the short showcase, please send me your 2 slides because it will be just a mess if we have to switch every 2 minutes.
I do have a quick question. Is Masha registered for this meeting?
Who?
Masha.
Yeah, she's our COSPAR representative, and she really works on our behalf. So
I don't
know.
No,
she's not registered.
No, I don't think so.
Can somebody contact her and let her know what's going on?
I will contact her.
That's fine. Okay. Yeah, we'll contact
you.
I sent a reminder to the whole group, CCMC group, last week, and so there's now actually 4 of us from CCMC registered, just not Masha.
That's correct.
Okay. But she plays a hugely important role. So.
See, Chu is on.
That's right.
So if you have any question about the meeting, don't hesitate to write to me. I'll try to answer my best. Okay. So see you tomorrow.
Yes.
I have a question about Confluence. How do you create channels and how do you create the
page? But you have to have the rights to do it.
You have to click on create. But
but maybe we should first. It's better that Beatrice resend the info. Make sure we have the proper organization rather than everybody starts to create pages randomly because then we will have to move them again. So I mean,
yes,
you can be patient until tomorrow.
Yeah, just send another cheat sheet for instructions.
Yeah, or we wait. I think we could wait for the end on Thursday where we decide on the working groups we want to set up, and then we can create directories with those working groups, and then we can arrange that, prepare a page, list the people that are interested in this page, and so we have some sort of seed.
Yeah, excellent. Less work for now. That's great.
Good.
Okay.
Thank you, Arnaud. Thank you.
Good evening or good night.
Yes, good whatever time it is.
Bye.
Bye.
Good night. Bye-bye.